Hey, how are you? Nice to see you today. So today's video is going to be kind of story time. It's book related, uh, but then there's going to be a chunk in the middle where I'm not talking about books. Then I'll tie it back in at the end. So yeah, let's get going on this one. So recently in November, I did a trip. It was a trip to Churchill, Manitoba, which is up on the sort of subarctic. I don't know if it's Arctic. Yeah, I'd say subarctic. It's on Hudson Bay, and it's pretty far north in Manitoba. It's there is a port there, the port of Churchill, and there's a railway up there. One railroad that goes up there, but there's no highways. So for the most part, you have to fly in or take the train. And the reason why I went in November was to photograph polar bears. They congregate along the shores of Hudson Bay and they wait for ice to form on the bay, and then they head out onto the frozen ice, and that's where they hunt seals. And they eat, basically they fill up on seals all winter, and then after the ice melts in the bay, they come back onto land and then essentially just hang out and wait for the ice to form again. And so how does this tie into reading? Well, when I went, I flew up. My family didn't want to go, so they stayed home. They were like zero interest. My daughter's like, hell nah, when I asked if she wanted to come with me. So I went on my own, and I took a book, actually. Whenever you're doing anything on your own and you need good company, that good company can always be found in a good book. So I picked The Wager to read while I was on my trip, and I recently reviewed The Wager on a couple past video, but that was the book that I chose to read while I was on my trip during my downtime, and while I was on the plane, while I was kind of, you always get moved around and stuff happens where you can always use a good book. So that's what I did. So I took The Wager with me on the plane, and we flew from Calgary and we flew up to Churchill, Manitoba. They have a big airport up there. I think there's used to be military installations there, so they have a good airport. And we landed 737, but I actually didn't get a chance to read on the plane because they did serve breakfast and they had naturalists on the flight. And so for the whole time, we were being gifted with knowledge and lectures from university prof and others. And so talked about the polar bear habitat, environmental issues, biological, sort of what they ate, how they hunt, where the different populations exist, and what was special about the subpopulation that lives around the Hudson Bay. And so there was no time to read on the plane, and so, but that was fine. And it was also, I should tell you that I think I was at the airport at 5 in the morning, and so the flight left around 6. And so I was kind of tired anyway, so it wasn't like I was too into reading at the time. We landed at the airport, shuffled around they have a tiny little airport, headed out, got on buses, went out to the natural area where the polar bears are generally spotted, and went up onto these giant tundra buggies. These are specially designed pieces of machinery that are built so they're very, very high, so that you can watch polar bears you can get across the tundra, you can watch polar bears, but polar bears are so huge and they can stand up so high that the viewing platforms also need to be equally high. So we got on these big tundra buggies, and just so you know the scale, when we pulled up by the bus, the roof of the coach was at about the bottom of the main windows that you could view from. So it was the buggy was much higher than a standard motor coach would be. Anyway, we went out onto the tundra, and there's no roads. It's sort of track and sort of beaten down, but the way the buggies are designed, they're like super, super bouncy. And so they had actually said that they provided motion sickness pills, the kind of stuff that you take if you're going to do a cruise or ocean journey and you got seasickness. So you couldn't read on those things. You're just like slamming around the whole time, heading out into the tundra looking for polar bears, which are in the wild, so you're not in a viewing area. And then when we would the Tundra buggy the drivers would spot a polar bear, or one of the guests would spot a polar bear, then it would sort of bounce there, and then we would get our you could go out onto the platform, you could look from inside, and so you just jump up, and then you're spotting or watching polar bears. So obviously not the time to read there. With me, I shoot with a Nikon. I had a 180 to 600 lens that I rented for the trip. It's not something that I own, but it was a $50 rental for the day, so it was pretty economical. And so I was out photographing polar bears from the Tundra buggy the majority of the time, and I think we were out on the tundra for about 6 hours photographing or looking for for the most part, and then photographing as we found the bears. And then after about 5 hours, we sort of came back in, and again, bouncing around. There's no way there was going to be a chance to read. And we spotted, I think we spotted about 9 bears total, maybe 8. Sometimes it was a little bit challenging to say. Some were close by, some were a little bit further away. We saw a mother and a baby that were sort of hidden back away from the rest of the bears. I think they're quite hungry by the time the ice is starting to reform on the bay. And so the mothers would try to keep the babies away from the big males. Even though there tends to be nothing that happens, it could potentially be dangerous for a cub if a male is particularly hungry and desperate to eat. So we did see a mother and a baby or a cub away from the rest of the bears. Then we saw some big males. One of the males had a gash kind of on its shoulder, and it had a little bit of a dry kelp that was kind of, I think, stuck to the wound, the dry wound that was hanging down. So that was kind of cool. Saw a bear that was up poking around by other tundra buggies. There was actually a tundra buggy hotel out there on the tundra as well, close to the edge of the bay. And again, it was all on these mobile wheeled buggies that could be moved into place. They were elevated way up into the air. I don't think you can ever go onto the ground there. They don't allow you to walk, at least where we were. There might be other tours where you could walk, but on the trip that I was, in the area that I was at, you had to just like stay in the buggies. You had to be up like 15 feet or whatever it was. And we saw a bunch. We saw bears sleeping because they were trying to basically conserve calories, waiting as expending as little energy as possible until the ice would freeze up. And and then when we came back on the buggy, we bounced again, as I said, and we had dinner, a big banquet. Part of the deal is that they want to really sort of have the ecotourism supporting the community, which is quite small. There's only 400 people up there, and there's like no communities around for like thousands of miles. Well, I don't know, far. And so we had rented a hall, or the operator rented a hall, and we had a dinner there, and they had entertainment and all that stuff. So that was pretty good. And then when we got on the plane, I was like so beat, so I never read anything on the way home, and that was it. But what I wanted to bring up, though, to sort of wrap this up and to make this worth watching, was that as I mentioned, that I'm into photography as a hobby. And so one of the things that I do, which you might find interesting, as a book person yourself, maybe you take pictures of book covers for Instagram or whatever you do. I know I do, but I submit my photos often if I'm out doing stuff with photography to a book cover agency. The site or the agency I use is Archangel, and I submit photos there. Sometimes they're selected, sometimes, and most often they're not. It's a pretty high standard that they require, and I sell photos for book covers. And I have a bunch of photos now, having been purchased and put on books in the past. And so that's kind of fun for me as a reader to also have a hobby of photographing for the purposes of having photos on book covers. And one of the intentions and plans was for me to use the polar bear photos that I took on this trip to upload to the Archangel website for the purposes of selling, licensing photos for book covers. And so, yeah, I did that after I got back. I went through the photos and cleaned a bunch up. Some of the ones that I like, some of the ones that I've already shown. And those are now for sale and will one day, hopefully, but maybe unlikely, be on the cover of a book. We'll see. And maybe if that ever happens while I'm still doing this, I'll let you know. And maybe I'll let you know when I see book sales happen. They don't happen very often. It's not a huge, it's a pretty niche market, and a lot of book covers are graphic design based, not so much photo oriented anymore. But yeah, it's a fun hobby, and I thought I would bring that one up. So anyway, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this one. We will see you on the next one. Take care. Have a great day. Really appreciate you stopping by and spending time with me. See you soon.